Back everyone, this is another video that I'm shooting ranking the top 5 albums of a specific year in music, and this one, as you can see in the description, is 1966. Things are starting to get a little bit more difficult to choose just 5 albums. So if I did have to do a top 10, some of the albums that didn't make the top 5 would be in the top 10. So these are, I guess, honorable mention and in no order. Some of them may be shocking to you, but again, let me just preface this by saying that what I'm doing here is not ranking what I consider to be the greatest albums of the year, but these are the albums that I choose to listen to the most. And some of the albums that didn't make the top 5 may have not made the top 5 because I hear them so much that you hear the songs on the radio, or you've heard it over and over and over. So I just made the top 5 list of the albums from this year that I listen to the most when I go back to it, and I can do that. So there you go. So let's get started. The honorable mentions are a quick one by The Who, Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan, I know didn't make the top 5, Seeds by The Seeds, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, and probably a tie between Freak Out from the Mother's Invention and Psychedelic Sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators. So the top 5. So we're going to go with number 5 first, and that is the Rolling Stones Aftermath album. Basically, this is like a stripped down pop album. It's not as raunchy rock as the previous album in 65. But it still has that sort of faraway garage sound. Coca-Cola. This is the real thing, by the way. See? Free advertising. Maybe Coca-Cola will sponsor my channel. So anyways, back to the business here. Aftermath is basically a pop album, as far as I'm concerned, sort of a psychedelic garage pop album. My favorite songs off of it, Paint It Black, Under My Thumb, of course, are the major ones that were off the album, and they are my favorites. But this is just good British pop. Like I said, it's kind of a darker sound than most of the pop music that you would hear from the 1960s, but it's not as raunchy, kind of rock as the Stones would get later on. And it's just a good album, good pop album, really good songs. This is sort of a Saturday evening kind of album to me. I mean, that's what I like to do, is listen to some music on Saturdays and chill when I'm not actually out doing something. So anyways, coming in at number 5, Aftermath by the Rolling Stones. Coming in at number 4, this one was a little tough, but I really enjoy this band. My mother used to sing some of these songs from this band. It is Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. Excellent folk pop album by one of the greatest harmony duos of all time. This is, again, I mentioned Rubber Soul in my last video of being like the autumn sort of album, and that's kind of the way this one is. It's sort of like the fall, the leaves and things of that nature, like autumn pop or something. Got some bittersweet feel to it, but then it's got some uplifting tracks as well. But I really enjoy it. Sounds of Silence is very existential, very emotive song. And I love the beginning intro, the guitar intro to it. Very powerful song. Also love Homeward Bound. The harmony between Simon and Garfunkel and Homeward Bound is just phenomenal. You need to listen to the Monterey pop version and to really appreciate how they interact with each other. So Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. Excuse me. Next is an English folk singer by the name of Roy Harper. You may have heard of Roy Harper through Led Zeppelin. They had a song, I think, off Led Zeppelin 3 called Hats Off to Harper. He also sung on a Pink Floyd song called Have a Cigar off the Wish You Were Here album, 1975. So he got around in England a lot, helping others. I think he also did, he helped David Gilmour on David Gilmour's solo album with Short and Sweet. But he had an album, a debut album that came out that 66 called The Sophisticated Beggar. And wow, the guitar work that Roy Harper does on Sophisticated Beggar is just top notch. Very good guitarist, very good musician, very powerful lyrics. He was very underrated, I think, worldwide. Appreciated more in the UK. But yeah, the lyrics and the way he sang the song, just a brilliant album. I love Sophisticated Beggar off of it. I think there's one called Black Cloud off this album. Gosh, what was the other one called? I don't know, but several, I can't recall right off the bat, but there's several of the songs off this album. There's not a song off this album that I skip. I listen to all of the songs. I think he's got one called China Girl as well in there, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. But the whole entire album is good. Blackpool, I think, is on there as well, but just a great album. Very haunting sound. Great composition. Deep lyrics. So if you can get your hands on a copy of Sophisticated Beggar, 1966, Roy Harper, highly recommend that. So now we're down to the top 2. Number 2 is sunny California folk pop band Mamas and the Papas, and the album in question is If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears by the Mamas and the Papas. This is summertime music, but it's sort of summertime music going into the fall, because the first song off the album is called California Dreamin', and all the leaves are brown and the sky's gray, so it's sort of the autumn feel. But the album's a very summertime feel as well. It's a very California folk pop, happy, gentle, dreamy. It's a feel-good album to me. And of course, it's got California Dreamin', which is the major song off of it. And there's a lot of really good songs off this album. I like Straight Shooter. I think Somebody Groovy's also off this album or whatever. So it's got a lot of, and again, Monterey Pop, Mamas and the Papas did some of these songs off this album at the Monterey Pop Festival. If you ever get a hold of that video, you'll appreciate them as well. But just a really good folk pop album. There's not really a lot of, as a matter of fact, it's sort of like the Roy Harper album. There's not a lot of songs that I skip on this one, and that's why it comes in at number 2. Very cool album. So that leaves me with my number 1 choice, of course, and it is Revolver from the Beatles. Nothing's going to top this album in 1966. One of the greatest rock albums of all time. It's psychedelic, it's progressive, it's rock, it's pop, it's experimental, it's complexity. Just a hypnotic feel to the album. It's very, very playful and reflective at the same time. There's just so many emotions. This album is so ahead of its time. And really, Tomorrow Never Knows is a song that I don't even think we're still ready for today. It's just it's such a masterpiece of work, of composition that John put together on this song that the Beatles released. Eleanor Rigby, another one. The strings in it sort of sound like the movement from Hitchcock's Psycho. Dun, 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 dun. Another one that I like that you don't hear a lot of, Dr. Robert, is a good one off this album. Taxman's off this album. I mean, there's just so many. There's not one bad song on this album. They're all good songs. Tomorrow Never Knows, of course, is my favorite one. It is just still modern. It's just an unbelievable track. To be released in 1966, to have put that down in 1966, I mean, you would think these guys were from outer space. And what really blew my mind about the Beatles was they went from, in 3 years, from like Please Please Me to Revolver. I heard somebody say one time that's like saying, the Backstreet Boys turned into Radiohead in 3 years. So, I mean, to see the evolution of the Beatles and how quickly it unfolded, unbelievable. But this is my number one choice, one of the greatest rock albums of all time, Revolver by the Beatles. If you enjoyed this album, please give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe if you haven't already, and there'll be more to come. I've got a lot more stuff to come up with. As far as this series, I've got still got my psychedelic gem series. I have the I'm still going to be ranking some more albums coming up. I think Black Sabbath discography, and then I'll be doing some top 10. And then I'm also going to do a video I'm thinking about on the Pink Floyd solo albums by Pink Floyd members. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming up. So you guys just stay tuned, and thank you for watching, and you guys take care.